Welcome back to another episode of the Brilliant Resilient Experience.
My dear friend, where have you been? Where have you gone? Where did you win? Someone there, are you listening? Is it too late? My dear friend.
If you find other people that have big goals and you won't feel as crazy, you'll be motivated. Welcome back to another episode of the Brilliant Resilient Experience. Today we have a very special guest. He is a strength and conditioning coach and the owner of Project Deliverance. He coaches several MMA athletes, including UFC fighter Sean Woodson, who is fighting on May 11th. Very excited about that. Very excited for the UFC St. Louis card that he's going to be fighting on. And I'm looking forward to learning a lot about Matt, his background, and his experience in coaching these athletes. So let's go ahead and welcome Matt Owen. Matt, how
Awesome.
are you? Happy Friday.
Good. Happy Friday. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I've heard so much about you, but I haven't talked to you yet. So
heard lots about you as well.
Awesome. Hopefully good things.
only the good stuff. Only the good stuff.
Perfect. So obviously, huge topic right now is UFC St. Louis. Mm-hmm. You're a huge part of that because you are Sean Woodson's strength and conditioning coach. So I guess to start it off, just tell me about how you got started with strength and conditioning and then how it kind of evolved into Project Deliverance and everything that you're doing now.
So I've been an athlete pretty much my entire life. Started out in football, transitioned into track and field. Once I was done playing football and running track throughout college, indoor and outdoor for Lindenwood University, basically started Project Deliverance out of my parents' garage when I was in the middle of college, just as a way to stay in shape during the summer and winter months when we were at home. And just myself and a bunch of neighborhood kids and friends getting together and training and doing that sort of thing just to stay in shape for football season and track season when we got back to school. And it just kind of developed into its own thing over time. And when I graduated, we basically took it, my wife and I took it and created an entire gym, took it out of the garage, rented some space, and made it into its own business. So
Nice.
By the time I got a hold of Sean, we'd been in business for about, if you count the garage years, about 10 or 11 years.
Oh, wow.
So,
Nice.
I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time. And really, Sean was the first fighter that I trained. And basically,
that's really cool.
Yeah, learned how to basically handle fighters by training him. And then when people saw him starting to have some success, and then with the Contender Series, they're like, man, I gotta get in here and try this for myself and see what this is about. So that's kind of how this came about.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've not only trained MMA athletes, but you've trained all kinds of athletes,
Yes,
especially like in your early years. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. We've had people that run track that I've trained a lot of high school athletes. I've got a kid that when he comes home plays football for Lindenwood that trains with us. His buddy plays for the University of Georgia. He's won a national championship. He's a super good athlete as well. So we have all kinds of different athletes, not just mixed martial arts. And we have people that are just training to be fit, that just want to come and, lose some weight. We have a great community. So, just be a part of the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen you're really good at the social media stuff. I see your posts all the time.
I could be better.
Awesome.
I could be much better.
It's awesome. The quality is amazing. The pictures are so good. And yeah, I love it. I love seeing it. And it's just really cool to see everything that's going on in St. Louis right now, like I said. And it's really starting to make waves. It's awesome. It's really awesome.
Totally. Yeah. People are
finally
taking
starting to
notice,
get some recognition.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I was saying, when Sean got into the UFC and he fought in Boston, I was like, hopefully they come to St. Louis, and here we are. So
isn't that wild?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, they were going to all these cities. He fought Dennis in Nashville last summer. I was like, man, that'd be so cool to have a card here in town, and we're about a week away, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was so crazy how it all happened because I had literally a week or two before they announced it or before the rumors started coming out, I had Jesse Martinelli on my podcast,
Okay.
and we were talking about how cool it would be if they did a
Oh,
St.
yeah.
Louis show. And this was before we knew anything. Like, we did not
Right.
know about it. I swear, I have like, I'm psychic. I swear. It's weird. Like, with MMA stuff, I swear I have this like weird, like, I don't know. It's
Just
like
had a
sixth
feeling
sense.
it was coming. It was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got
Well,
some clients
it's
that train
awesome.
in the morning that work for Anheuser-Busch, and they just had the big Bud Light deal. And I think it
Oh,
was
yeah.
back in March or so. They were like, yeah, he was over at Anheuser-Busch headquarters, and he was saying we're gonna do a card in St. Louis. So we kind of knew it was coming, but we
Oh,
weren't really
wow.
sure what the
Okay.
date was going to be. And they're like, yeah, don't say anything, but it's going to be soon. So we had a feeling it was coming. So
That's funny. I didn't even
yeah,
put two and two together on that one either. Like, when it
uh-huh.
first got announced, I
hmm
was like, oh, I wonder why they're coming to St. Louis like this soon.
hmm
Like, I was just talking about it like a fantasy. And then
uh-huh.
it happens. I'm like, oh, it makes sense. The Bud Light
Right.
deal. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. He's coming. They said he's going to ride out onto like Clydesdales when he comes into town. They got the people that I train are a big part of this like marketing team that they have
Oh,
over there.
wow.
So they've been preparing for this as well, for a good 4 weeks or so. So it's a pretty big deal all around.
Yeah. It's going to be
So
huge.
it'll
It's
be
going to be
awesome. Be
huge.
fun. Be a good time.
Yeah, it's a great card too. I feel like
Oh yeah.
a lot of people are sleeping on it. I feel like
hmm
because you know how MMA fans are. They
Sure.
they want the
Yeah.
big names and they want
Yeah.
whatever. But
hmm
if you look at the card and you look at the opponents, the matchups, it's actually a really really
Yeah.
good card.
Yeah. You got some
Um
really good fighters on there. And, like you
oh yeah.
said, they're looking for those big names, but they don't understand that these are going to be really good matchups that they put together. It's really good matchmaking.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
it'll be
And
great.
Derek Lewis main event is
Oh,
hilarious.
yeah,
I love
man.
it.
Like, people like, oh, we got two heavyweights. I'm like, that guy, like, he's a knockout artist, and, he can just
Yes.
touch people and put them to sleep. So
Yes.
it'll be a good card. It'll be a good night.
Definitely. Hopefully, if he gets
hmm
taken down, he'll just get up. So
Right. Yeah, just stand up, man.
that would be great. That would be
Yep.
great, Derek. Just get up.
Just stand up, big
Yeah,
guy.
I'm excited. I really like. I like Nascimento too, but I really hope Derek Lewis wins because his
Yeah.
post-fight interviews are just
Oh, I
they're
know.
classic.
It's something else.
They're classic.
He's got to take his pants off.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be really cool. I'm excited to do it. I'm gonna be doing media, so I'm
Yeah,
like,
awesome.
I don't even
Awesome.
know when the media day is. I probably should figure that out, but I'm assuming it's either Wednesday or Thursday or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited because this will be basically this will be my second UFC
hmm
event that I've covered like in person, and
hmm
then I've covered so many local shows now
hmm
that like I've gotten really familiar with our whole community over the
hmm
past year in covering
Awesome.
anything from Muay Thai to AMI MMA or
hmm
whatever they asked me to cover. if I
Awesome. Yeah,
if I'm interested in it, I'm like, I'll cover it. If I like
yeah,
it, if the fights are good,
you'll
yeah.
be able to get into a good flow. You've got some experience now.
Yes, it
So it's
definitely
good.
helps. I'm definitely glad I did it this way. I'm glad that I started off as a fan and
hmm
started off as like an MMA enthusiast and then transitioned into media. And it's funny because when I first like really got like into like became like a diehard MMA fan, I wanted to fight. Like
hmm
I saw Rose and I was like, I want to do that. I was like,
Yep.
I really like want to try to do that. And I didn't
hmm
know if I wanted to do MMA or boxing or kickboxing or whatever, but that was what really inspired me to like get into it. And then
Awesome.
now I'm like doing media and interviewing fighters and going to these
hmm
shows, and it's a blessing. It's so cool. I could
Excellent.
not be more blessed to be able to do
Yeah.
this. And
I can tell that you really love what you do,
oh yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I it's this is
100%.
my passion for sure. And I've
I can
heard that
tell it
you're
shines
very
through.
passionate about MMA too.
Oh, yeah, and um there'll be fights on week to week, and usually when I'm watching them it's because there's guys that we could see, that Sean could
Yes.
see. So um before he came to the gym I wasn't really into it, but then now I've got multiple horses in this race. So I've got to be
Yeah.
familiar with all these different fighters and, what's going on in all these different weight classes. So really it's more of a like scouting thing for me. And then I really grew to appreciate, the sport and the art behind it. And, watching these different fighters perform, and then, I'll go and research who their coach is and what they do for training. If there's something that kind of catches my eye or something that's interesting to me, then I can see what they're doing and maybe add those tools to my bag somehow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
and
super interesting.
that's kind of the way that I look at, like looking at how some of the Dagestanis train and how they have like an unbeatable gas tank. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to dig into what they do. And is it because they're from the mountains? Is it because they're using some kind of
Crazy
special
mountains.
training tools, some kind of different protocol? Is it just because it's, they've been this way since they were kids, since they were in school and they're training Sambo since they're in kindergarten? What's that X factor that makes them so dangerous from everyone else?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
because it's a
yep.
very like it and you see that with like a lot of the Brazil fighters, like you got the shoot
Hmm.
box and
Yeah.
you've got these little pockets of like where they just have monsters. It's like a factory.
Yep.
But I've never seen anything quite like what has come out of Dagestan. I
Yeah.
think that is
Yeah. It's
just
very impressive.
like a different level.
Oh, for sure. And it's
It's
just their
crazy.
ability, just their nonstop attack that like was
Yes.
mesmerizing to me. They just don't get tired. And, why is that? Are they training at a certain intensity? Are they using different tools? So we've got some
Yeah.
elements of what they do that I've taken. And we got these like big long bands that Khabib and DC have trained with that we're using to build this strength endurance for some of our guys. So they have that unstoppable attack on the ground as well, or at least some kind of component of that from a muscular standpoint.
Oh wow. Did
So
you watch
that kind of
any
stuff.
of Arman's vlogs when he was leading up to UFC 300?
Not too many, not too many at all. I've
Oh, you
been
should
I've
watch
been
him.
so absorbed in this camp for Sean and for
Oh
Jordan and for
yeah, I can
Danny.
imagine.
It's I was kind of just spectating for 300. I wasn't really
Yeah.
super into what was going on. I was kind of just watching. I was interested for sure to see what was going to go down.
Oh yeah.
But
It
yeah.
was really interesting. He did his part of his training camp in Russia and he was
Okay.
training at like different elevations, like
Hmm.
higher elevation and like mid
Sure.
elevation and all that kind of stuff. And then he had like a strength and conditioning
Hmm.
coach too in Russia that he was working
Okay.
with that he spoke really highly of. And I think yeah, one of his vlogs he had like the training footage with him and talked about like what they were
Okay.
doing. So it was
Okay.
really interesting. And then also they had his wrestling coach was a 3-time freestyle wrestling world champion,
Okay.
and the one that he was working with in Russia.
Nice.
And then he also trains at ATT. So it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, he was
Yeah.
very
Okay.
well prepared for that.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check it
Yeah,
out. That sounds super interesting
definitely.
for sure. Super interesting to
Definitely.
me.
Yeah,
Yep.
you'll probably nerd out on it.
Oh yeah, and the whole science behind the training at altitude, you want to sleep high or live high where the partial pressure of oxygen is lower, so your body makes those adjustments and acclimates from a red blood cell count standpoint, and then you want to train low so you're not having to fight through that thin air. So there's more air to breathe when you're training. Because all those adaptations happen
Interesting.
when you're sleeping anyway.
Oh, I never thought
So
about
that's why
that.
you see these guys sleeping in hypobaric chambers, where they're able to raise that altitude to 10,000 feet or so in terms of the oxygen pressure, and then they train at sea level. They come out of the chamber and train at sea level.
Oh wow.
So
So
that's how to
I've
really
always
do it. How to
wondered
really
what
take
those things
advantage.
did.
Hmm.
Those so they have a hyperbaric chamber and then a hypobaric
So
chamber.
people use hyperbarics, which is you're increasing the partial pressure of oxygen in that chamber, and they usually use that as a treatment for concussion or for some kind of chronic inflammatory thing that you have going on. And then the
Oh,
hypobaric is normally what they'll use to help elicit some sort of altitude-based adaptations. So, that live high, train low kind of thing, where they're trying to increase that red blood cell count naturally without using anything like EPO
interesting.
or anything. So, and that's
Wow.
totally legal. Like you won't get in trouble for that at all.
Right.
So it's just taking advantage of, the technology and everything and, that sort of
Yeah.
stuff at your disposal.
Wow. That's
So
incredible.
that's
It's
the,
crazy
that's
how
the
much
science
things have
behind it.
evolved
Hmm.
in MMA.
Oh
with
yeah.
the not only the training but the recovery and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff too. It's
Oh yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, the like contrast therapy, the hot sauna, straight to cold plunge has become a really big deal. We've added that in for Sean. He's doing it every day. Seems to be helping quite a bit, especially with the like weight cut and tolerance for heat, as well
Yes.
as just getting the inflammation down and him being able to tolerate multiple sessions every day. So that's been a huge thing for us.
I was going to ask you about that because
Hmm.
I'm a big ice bath fan. I
Okay.
used to do ice baths every single day. I got lazy. I need to start doing it again. Uh,
Super beneficial and good for mental toughness.
yes, that was the
Hmm.
first thing that I noticed with
Yep.
it. Like, even if it wasn't like overly cold, if it was just like cold enough to where it was like uncomfortable,
Hmm.
then it did help me kind of like get my day going, like
Sure.
get in the
Sure.
right mindset of like, okay, well, I got that over with. So now I can do
Right.
anything.
Right. And it's got kind of a like tonic effect is what we call it. So it kind of gets you, it kind of wakes you up, sort of, especially if you do it
Yeah.
first thing in the morning, and then you'll have a little bit of an energy boost throughout the day. But for maximum benefit, I'd recommend sauna for about 10 to 15 minutes you know, or so, and then 5 minutes straight to the cold plunge. So that's where the
Interesting.
most benefits are from a training standpoint. So we've been using that for Sean, for Jordan Howard. If Danny didn't have to go to work so early, he'd be in there too. But yeah, it's been massively beneficial, especially for Jordan making his first cut
Yeah,
down to 125. So
definitely.
126. Yep.
So the ice bath,
Hmm.
I imagine, like you mentioned, it reduces the inflammation, and that was
Hmm.
one thing that I noticed, like when I was doing weightlifting, like more heavy lifting and stuff.
Sure.
I noticed that when I did the ice bath in between sessions, not
Okay.
like right before or right after, but like perfect sweet spot,
Yep.
then I felt like, because I have lupus, so I have
Okay.
inflammation constantly in my body.
Sure.
So strength
Okay.
and conditioning has always been a challenge for me
Hmm.
because it's like you have to really balance how much
Of course.
inflammation you put in your body.
Oh
And when
yeah,
you lift weights,
yeah,
you're
you gotta be
causing
on top of it
inflammation.
for sure. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So that was one thing that I noticed really helped me be able to recover from those sessions and then
Hmm.
go back into the next session and not
Yep.
be like completely exhausted. Like I used to just be completely exhausted
Hmm.
after a workout, and
Hmm.
where like I could barely stay awake
Hmm.
afterwards. Like it was so bad. So
Hmm.
that helped me a lot
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, they're super beneficial for that, and from an energy boost standpoint, it helps your body. It helps with your brown fat balance. So when we're born, like babies have a lot of brown fat. That's why they're so like, their skin is so squishy. Like, and as
Right.
as we age, that brown fat under your skin starts to go away, and that's why we develop wrinkles and all that. It really helps your body build that brown fat back up and helps you not age so quickly.
Interesting.
So that's another little known benefit of getting in that cold and being in that cold consistently every day.
Yeah, I really need to start doing that
So there
more.
you go. But like, people talk about cellulite and all that stuff. It helps combat all that sort of stuff.
Really? I did
Hmm.
not know that. So it's
Yeah,
really good for
people
your
don't
skin
know it has
too.
a lot of hidden benefits. So
That's awesome.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
very
Is
very
there a
beneficial.
specific temperature that you need to have it at, or does it really just depend on the person?
So we make ice at the gym for the sole purpose of getting it under 60 degrees. And
Yeah.
the plunge.com website has guidelines. They're like, we get our plunges down to 38 degrees. And if you're going to be that cold, you only have to be in there for about 90 seconds, if that. It
Really?
depends on. Yeah, it just gets too dangerous. If you're going to get that close to 32 degrees,
Yeah.
there's some frostbite and hypothermia danger. So you don't want to be in there super long. But if you're 50 to 60, you can easily tolerate 5 to even 10 minutes.
Yeah, I've done. I think the longest I did one time was
Hmm.
11 minutes, and it was probably around 50 something degrees. I didn't
Yeah,
measure it,
yeah,
but
you
it
start
it
to
felt
acclimate pretty
around
quick.
50.
Good.
Yeah, and then the coldest one I did, I want to say it was like it was in the 30s, but it was like
Hmm.
high 30s. I can't remember what the
Yeah,
temperature
boy, you'll
was. It was
feel
like
that.
37 or something like that. I did like 2 minutes, and then I was like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, that's
I was
about
like,
right.
I'm
Last
done.
summer we were doing them pretty heavily before Sean's fight against Dennis Bazooka, And I can remember Jordan Howard jumping in his truck and going down to QT to get extra ice because it was blazing hot out, and the stuff we had could only get it so cold. He comes back with like
Yeah.
10 bags of ice, and I've got the little thermometer in there, and we got that thing down to like 38, 37, and it was so. I remember how painful that was.
It
It was like, all right,
sucks.
here we
It
go.
sucks. Yeah, and then you got like ice all over you too, because the ice is like
Oh
still
yeah.
frozen and it like
Yep.
touches you, and you're like,
Yep.
yeah, it's brutal, but it's
Absolutely.
good. It's good. It's like
Absolutely.
painful, but it's good. It's like a good pain.
Totally. It's good. Mental
love it.
toughness. Mental toughness.
Yes, which is
Yep.
important for fighters. That's probably one of the most
100%.
important things is
For sure.
mental toughness.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be
Absolutely.
gritty. You have
Sorry,
to be
my
very
dog's
gritty.
over here making
Oh,
noise.
you're fine. I'm surprised mine isn't, honestly, so no, you're good.
Okay, awesome.
But yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, I could probably talk about ice bath for like 30 minutes, but because it's just so fascinating to me. And I started doing it because of well, actually the first time I did it was when I first started sparring, like boxing sparring. Because I have like issues with my leg sometimes,
Okay.
and it would really help me like kind of recover from it, so that way I could
Sure.
still train the next day or the day after. And
Okay.
that was why I started doing it, but I didn't really know anything about it back then. And then I did it a few times, like after sparring sessions, just to like literally it was just to ice my leg basically. And then I started doing like the full like up to the neck exposure.
Okay. Yep.
Probably about a year and a half ago, I think was when I started doing that.
Awesome.
And saw massive benefits. But you know, of course, like everything that we do that works, we always stop doing it, and then we're like, why did I stop doing that?
It works for a little bit, and they're like, oh, I guess I guess I'm good now. So it's the same thing
Yeah.
with like rehabbing from a bad injury. People will do their rehab exercises, then they get better, then they stop, then they get hurt again.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I got to get back on it. So
Yes, it's a vicious cycle. It's a
yep.
vicious cycle.
So that's
Yeah.
part of my
Well, you're
job
probably
is
familiar
to
with
keep people
that
on
very
it.
well.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, guess what? We're doing this warm up. We're going to do this whole mobility battery again, and they're like, oh, okay, fine. So,
Yeah.
but keeping these guys healthy, and probably the biggest thing is keeping these guys strong in terms of their hamstrings and their hips, because the common thread we see when they don't stay consistent with their strength and conditioning is their knees start to get hurt. And that's due to weak glutes, weak hamstrings, all the posterior chain just isn't where it needs to be. And then they get heel hooked and the knee gets pulled apart. So
Right.
I spend a lot of time building that up for these guys with all the different exercise variations that we use.
That's awesome. That's
So
really
super important. So if there's a young fighter listening to this, do your hamstring work or send me a message and I can give you the correct exercises to do. So
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's injuries can completely change a fighter's career, especially a knee
sure.
injury. So
For sure.
it's really important. And now not only you have to worry about like just you have to worry about tearing your knee anyways, but now with like all the heel hooks like you said and like the oblique kicks too.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you can literally look at Darren Till. Like
Right.
He had that I think in the Whitaker fight he got that he got hit with that oblique kick and pretty much ruined his knee, so
that was it. So yep.
It's brutal sport. It's not for the weak, that's for sure.
Indeed. Yep. I agree.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, it's funny. I always like whenever I see Sean Woodson's fights or his like clips from the UFC or whatever, whenever he fights, people are always like, how does he make 145? They're like, this is crazy. He's too tall for this division.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. I mean, when you look at his physique, it's like, it's not like he's, like look at somebody like Paulo Costa. Like he cuts a decent amount of weight.
Sure.
But he looks like he does. Like he looks gigantic in there.
Yeah.
But Sean, like he's definitely put on some muscle, but he doesn't look like, I feel like it's a little, I think it's just because he's so tall and so long and people are so mad.
Well, so you like,
has that.
you see me in person and I'm I'm really realistically only like maybe an inch shorter than him, but because of his proportions,
Yeah.
he appears, and how that weight is distributed and how his leverages are in terms of his like femur length and his leg and just the way that he's built. He just carries the weight differently than everyone else. So you get all these idiot
Yeah.
comments that are like, he's a weight bully. I'm like, he's not a weight bully if he can make weight, you idiot.
I
It's
know.
just, I'm
Like,
like, why
this is
would you
what
say that? We've
everyone
never had a
does.
problem. So they're just making excuses. And like Sean, he is much bigger than these guys realize. They're like, he's so skinny. I'm like, if he was right by you, you'd be like, man, this guy's big. Like
Yeah.
before he went in there against Charles Jourdain, it looked like Jourdain showed up for the wrong weight class because of how big, how like muscular he was from all the lifting and conditioning that we'd been doing. Just like towered over
Yeah.
that man. So
I noticed that.
like he's so skinny. I'm like, he's really not that skinny. When you get up on him, he's not.
No.
Like he's built. So I mean, they're just saying what they're seeing on TV, or they're echoing what someone else is saying. They're like, oh, this guy said
what
that.
most
Yeah,
people do.
that sounds right. So yeah, it's
I
crazy.
know that all too well.
Yeah, it's just people. You just gotta not even register that sort of thing. You just gotta let slide right off your back. It's the same thing with all these internet bozos out there that don't have a clue.
Oh God, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
And the older I've gotten, the less that stuff bothers me. So you just
That's how it goes.
keep doing your thing. Just keep following your passions. You just keep doing what you enjoy doing and loving it. And that's all there is to it.
Well, and I think a lot of people too, if they realized how hard Sean works and like what he actually does, because like I see him posting on his story like all the time, like his meals, his workouts, like everything. He's dialed in, and he's very driven. It seems like very disciplined, and I feel like if people knew that, they probably wouldn't be saying any of that stuff.
Yeah, they don't see, or they don't want to see all the work that's going on behind the scenes. Like what you see on his story. He's waking up, he walks his dog, he makes what he makes for breakfast that you see on his story. He comes to me, we train, do the sauna cold plunge, he goes home, he takes a nap, he eats again, and then he goes and he trains at Wolves Den. Like that's what he does. That's his day. So, and it's over and over and over and over again. And that's why he's become as good as he has. It's because he's got better consistency than all these other guys.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, and we talk all the time in strength and conditioning, like in terms of weightlifting, like the sport of weightlifting, how showing up and being consistent is more important than stringing together like 2 or 3 hard days a week, but showing up every day and putting in work. So, yep. Hey,
definitely.
Hold on one second.
You're fine.
Quiet. So they're just getting a little wild over here. So.
Oh no, you're good.
Anyway,
she's taking a nap, so I'm good.
Good. Mine were.
Unless she wakes up.
Mine are still have a little bit of puppy in them. I've got 2 of them, and sometimes they get a little crazy. So.
What kind of dogs do you have?
These tiny little whippets. They're like miniature greyhounds. They're about 30, 35 pounds, and we got them both.
Those are fast.
Oh yeah, they've got quite the rabbit and squirrel body count. Yeah, she agrees. So. Yeah, there's been mornings where I'm trying to get to the gym and I let them outside and I hear the worst noise, which is a rabbit being mauled by the 2 of them.
God.
I'm like, great. I get to go outside and pick this dead rabbit up and try and get them dried off because the grass is wet, so it's pretty crazy. Dogs are funny creatures.
They really are. They really are.
Yeah.
I have a Doberman pit bull mix, so she's pretty fast too.
I bet, and strong.
Yes, that's the problem with her. She's deceiving. Like you look at her, it's kind of like Sean Woodson. You look at her, she looks so skinny with long legs and long, just long limbs, and you're like, oh, this is a tiny little dog, and that she is so strong.
Yep.
She is so strong I guess probably from the pit bull, but oh, we have another guest.
Yeah, right here. Come here, Willow.
I've had like 4 animals on my podcast by now, so this is great.
Want to say hi?
This is fantastic.
She says hi. Now, the other one wants to hop up too. Okay, Wispy, come here, buddy. Come here, baby.
That's awesome. I love dogs.
I'm
obsessed. Oh my gosh, they're so cute.
Say hi. Do you want to say hi? He says hi. Okay, all right, get down. Okay.
They got their 15 minutes of fame.
Right. Now they're gonna ball each other.
Yep, that's
Hey,
why I only have one.
quiet. Right.
I got one and done. You know, I'm like,
Willow.
I don't need chaos. My sister just
Right.
got a third dog, and I'm like, you're out of your mind. Out of your
Yeah.
mind. She got like 3 pit bull mixes. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Emily gives me some crap because we'll see like Whippet puppies on Instagram. I'm like, oh man, look at these, and she's like, yeah. She's like, I know you want like 1 or 2 more. I'm like, I don't know if I can handle it. Too much chaos, right? You know, with these two going nuts and tearing the house up.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yep.
funny. That's funny. Dogs are great. That's
Oh yeah.
hilarious. Well,
Good
what's
girls.
funny about getting back to the Sean Woodson fight,
Mm-hmm.
and he's fighting Alex Cacares. I don't think I mentioned that
Mm-hmm.
at all
Yep.
yet. But which is a really interesting fight
It
too.
is. It is. It's an
Um,
interesting matchup for sure.
yeah, yeah, and that was the matchup I was hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of looking at like the lower 5 of the top 15, I was
Sure.
thinking like, okay, Alex Casares, he's a bigger name than some of the other guys like
Mm-hmm.
Lerone Murphy.
Yeah.
You know, isn't quite as big of a name, but
Mm-hmm.
also, you know, just has been in the UFC for a long time,
Oh yeah.
has
He's
notable
yeah.
wins, and that's a huge fight to
Mm-hmm.
have on your resume.
100%.
Um, I was irritated though because I saw that he's not in the top 15
I
anymore.
was just going to mention that they moved Diego Lopez in, and they moved I think Sadiq Youssef to number 15. It'll be, if Sean does what I know he's going to do,
Yeah,
it'll be just fine. So we've
I
got our
think he
opponent. We're good to
will.
go.
I think he'll be ranked if he wins. I think he
Hmm.
will.
Hmm.
I would hope. I mean,
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
only make sense to
So
me.
and I don't want to say who he has his eye on next, but it's going to be guys with numbers next to their name. So
Yeah, yeah,
100%,
yeah. Because once you
100%.
start fighting in the rankings, you're pretty much in there, even if
Oh,
you
for
lose
sure.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Because now you're
Hmm.
associated with someone who was ranked. So,
Right.
and depending on the performance, that's why I try to explain to people sometimes. Like
Hmm.
when a fighter loses, that doesn't necessarily like mean their career is over or like
Hmm.
they're not going to get a good fight next. Because it's like,
Right.
well, you know, if they have a good enough performance, even if they lose,
Hmm.
then then the UFC might look at that and say, okay, well, we've got something here. You know,
Right.
let's get maybe a different matchup and
Hmm.
let's figure it out. So I've seen that
Yeah,
happen a lot where a fighter loses, but then they still get a good fight
for
next
sure.
because they
For sure.
they didn't get finished, they it's
Yeah.
close, and
Yep.
so if you're gonna lose, that's the way to do it.
That's the way. That's the way to do it. We're
Yeah,
yep. We're gonna have him. We're gonna have a really good weight cut. We're gonna show up. He's got a good game plan. We're gonna be focused on getting the job done, showing up and executing what
yeah,
he needs to do, and the rest will take care of itself. So
oh yeah, and this is a
that's the
super
game
winnable
plan
fight for him too.
for
I
sure.
mean, it's definitely not a fight to like underestimate. Like some
No,
people,
no.
like especially with like the local scene, like they want to root for their guys, of course, and they're
Hmm.
like, oh, they're gonna knock him out in the first round. It's like, well, hold on, like,
Yeah, I mean,
like
and
hold on.
what a lot of these fans don't realize, and really what I've picked up, from working with him and being around all this for, the last 6, 7 years with him is, every single guy in the UFC is there for a reason. So
Yes.
you can't take anyone lightly. These are the best fighters in the world. So any dude that's in the UFC could, roll up on the regional scene and blow everyone out. So,
Yeah,
people need to keep
definitely.
that in mind. So,
Definitely.
and especially when they try
Absolutely.
and criticize these guys that are in the UFC. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. So it's a whole nother level that these, even fans have a hard time comprehending. They're like, oh,
Definitely.
I'm like, some guy will drop a fight and they'll be like, here, I'll sometimes go on their like social media and I'll read what some of the people are posting. You're a bum. I'm like, yeah, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like they're still very, very good fighters.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
no matter
Yeah,
what. So,
definitely. Yeah, and Sean is so interesting because he has, I would probably say, in I would say like if you want to rank like the top 3 boxers in no particular order in the
mhm.
division, obviously Holloway I would put
Yep.
number 1. I
He's
mean that's
good.
just
He's really good.
He's earned that spot. And
Yeah.
then I would probably put, I might put Taporia in there too.
Okay.
I feel like I
Yep.
haven't seen enough to really be like, oh yeah, he's the best boxer in the division, which is what that's the narrative that's kind of gone around, especially after Volkanovski. But
Sure.
Volkanovski, he's got good boxing, but he's not a boxer. Sean is a real boxer. Like
Right.
that's what people don't realize.
And
He's a
that matchup against Tapuria for Sean, we've talked about that in the gym, and that's a fight that's a fight that he likes. That's a matchup he likes, and if he likes it, then that's a matchup that I like. So
I like it too.
There's been some talk on Twitter about Sean and Tapuria fighting down the however many fights down the line, and that's a very good fight for us. Him being 5'7", 69-inch reach, just the reach disparity alone makes it very, very interesting. So, and what Ilya does, he does super well. I mean, when he's in tight, he does it really well. But when he fought Yusuf Zalal back, I think it was 2019, late 2019, like toward the end of that fight, he didn't get Yusuf out of there, and Yusuf was piecing him up. And he was only 5 inches longer. If you go back and watch that, fast forward to round 3, he was getting the better of him by the end of that fight. So, and as you know, that's a guy that Sean beat, a few years ago. So,
right.
Yep. So just something to keep in mind,
I know. I've been trying to tell people. I'm like, I'm not saying this because I'm from St. Louis. I'm like, because people know, like, I'm usually pretty honest. Like, I might have a little bit of a bias sometimes because I'm from St. Louis, but for the most part, I try to be accurate as possible without offending people. Right. And I'm like, of course. No, I'm like, Sean is a amazing boxer. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, you haven't even seen it all yet. Like, you haven't even seen it. Like, I've heard like Danny talk about him and you now, and it's just like I keep hearing just
I agree.
nothing but great things about his skill and his ground game too. That's what people forget too.
His ground game is very sneaky dangerous. People don't know about that either, really. I mean, he showed some of it against Dennis. Dennis has he trains with a lot of killers, and he's super talented, has great choke defense, but Sean's ground game is super underrated. And
definitely.
I don't think he's shown even like 40% of what he can do on his feet yet. And that's no. So I mean, that fight against Tapuria down the road would be a great one for him, and I think he would give Tapuria a lot of problems. So
I agree,
and we're all for it, but we just got to get to that point. We just got to one fight at a time.
Yes,
so,
definitely,
100%.
Definitely. The future's
100%.
looking bright, though. I will say.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's impressed me a lot. Watching his career has been really cool, and I didn't know when I first started watching Sean, I didn't know really anyone in the MMA scene yet. Like I watched UFC, but I didn't really get into the local scene until after COVID. So I knew who Sean was before, and so I've kind of watched him like as a regular fan, not as a St. Louis fan.
Right.
And then now I'm a St. Louis fan, and now I'm like,
awesome.
Okay, this is really cool. This is so much cooler than it was before, and especially just to see his rise. I mean, his knockout over Terrence McKinney on Contender Series, that aged like wine.
Right.
So
he's gonna be there. Terrence is gonna be there. So
is he fighting on that card? He's fighting. I forget who he's fighting. I can't remember who he's fighting.
I can't remember the guy's name either. But like I know he and Sean show each other love on social media, and I think Terrence follows me as well. Like I've commented on his stuff and like wished him well for his fights and like, hey man, when he got caught against Bonfim, I was like, hey man, it's all good. Bounce back better. You're gonna be fine. So he's a good dude. So that's a fight. I really hope he shows up and shows out here in St. Louis as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That
100%.
I really do like Terrence McKinney. He's got a really cool story too, and just like his whole journey is been incredible.
He was almost dead like 3 times, and came back from that whole drug situation. But he's really carved a nice career out for himself here in the UFC as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I still need to watch the the UFC just did that video on Sean. I still haven't watched it. I need to watch it.
It's good. It's
Um,
good.
because they kind of went
Su-
through like his whole story and everything too, which I think is
yeah,
really
yeah. They talk
important.
about, his bond with his mom and all the like things that had happened, over the past couple of years that were, going on with that situation and what happened in the Saldana fight. And
Yeah,
yeah, it was super well done. So it was just a good
that's
short
awesome.
little video there.
Yeah, I was glad they did that. It's really cool.
Yep.
And then I think we've got 3 UFC fighters in St. Louis on that card now, because
Hmm.
Buckley's on it in the co-main, and then Charles Johnson,
Hmm.
and then we've got Michael Johnson to pull out, but he got an
Yeah, well, I
injury.
was
But
that. Yeah, I've during COVID, Michael trained with us when he was in town. So,
oh, nice.
he came back. His family's here. He came and trained with us. During that period. So he and I keep in touch, and I sent him a text. And this was before we knew he was going to have to pull out because of injury. I was like, man, I can't wait to see you. Can't wait for you to be in St. Louis and for us to go through the whole
Yeah,
fight week. And he's like, man, I got to pull out. I was like, oh shoot, man, that sucks. So
yeah,
yeah, hopefully he
yeah.
has a successful surgery and comes back better. So
Hopefully,
yeah,
yeah.
he'll be
That's
back. He's
rough.
got plenty of mileage left. Plenty of mileage
Yeah,
left. He's still fast and strong, and he's a
he's so
hell of a great
durable.
fighter.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, he's
it's crazy.
tough guy, super tough guy. So
Yeah, I can't believe the longevity he's had in his career.
hmm
It's insane. It's
no,
actually
yeah,
insane.
yeah.
I
His
almost
he's got a
forget that he's
crazy
from
record.
St. Louis sometimes, because like I
Hmm.
used to watch Michael Johnson like before I even knew he was from St. Louis. Like I
Yeah.
didn't even know. I was watching him fight. Like I remember he fought Khabib and he
Hmm.
fought like everyone. He's fought everyone
Yeah.
in that division.
Yeah.
And then I realized he was from St. Louis and I was like, "Oh wow, that's really cool."
Hmm.
And then I still like forget that he's from here just because he's had such a like he's had so many big fights and
Right.
such an amazing career.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool.
Yep. He's got a few
Hopefully.
fights left for sure. He just got to go and
Yeah,
get healthy, and he'll be back on track.
definitely,
Back on
definitely.
track.
Yeah, do you have any tips for fighters for longevity or things that you've noticed that can help?
Um, Number one, I would say make sure that you've got a good, solid, well-rounded strength and conditioning plan. Make sure you're doing plenty of accessory for your posterior chain, so hamstrings, glutes, calves. Make sure that you're taking care of your shoulders. A lot of guys are getting shoulder injuries because they're doing too much bench press. They're not doing enough overhead pressing. They're not doing enough development of the back of the shoulder. So dumbbell reverse flies, banded reverse flies, any kind of shoulder rehab, like crossover symmetry style stuff that you can get a hold of. Definitely incorporate that in. Core strength, like static holds on the ring, static holds on the floor, and just making sure that your body is strong and durable all around is going to really increase that longevity. And just staying on top of your recovery and your diet. We
Yeah,
see these young guys can get away with it with eating stuff from QT. You can't get away with it when you're over 30 or close to 30 and you're starting to put the
yeah,
miles on. So, and just controlling the inflammation and making sure that your sleep schedule is on.
yes, that's
That's
so
the biggest
important.
thing. I've had, we have some guys that train at 6 and they come in and they're like, oh, I was at the gym late last night and I got 6 hours of sleep. I'm like, well, we're going to immediately go into some easier stuff, some like sled drags, some injury prevention, some recovery style intervals, stuff like that to support the training. So we're not just stacking on more and more volume and beating them further and further down. So you
Oh,
just
that's
got to,
awesome.
that's a whole other topic, like assessing their readiness per day and then adjusting the training to match.
Yeah, it's
So
that's like a
that's a
whole
whole other thing that I
science.
do. It is, and I've done it, over and over and over again for so many years that I don't even think about it. Guys come in and I walk up to them and I ask how they're doing. I'm like, "You look tired today. Are you tired?" "Yeah, I was at the gym late." So we're gonna adjust the training for that day. Or if they come in and Danny walks in and he starts bouncing around and warming up and shadow boxing, I know he's ready to pick some weight up. So,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you train
sure.
Sean Woodson, you train Jordan Howard, you train Danny Moriarty, and Sean and Jordan, they're basically full-time fighters, right? They don't have like
Um,
another job or anything.
So Jordan, his family, so he runs the Taekwondo school,
Right.
and that's it takes a good amount of time and it takes a lot of
Yeah,
energy because he's
that's
dealing with a lot
true.
of kids. I admire his ability to coach a large amount of
Yeah.
kids because I'd be like, all right, everyone, shut up.
Yeah,
He
same.
probably does way better at it than I would. I'd be like, all right, everyone, shut your mouth and look at me, you know? So, but yeah, in terms of of readiness and adjusting the training plan to match what we need. Jordan might come in and be run down, and I'll just make some little tweaks for him. But essentially, it's the same thing that we're doing with Sean. We'll just make some slight adjustments depending on, you know, his wife just had a baby, so we might make a little change. Might have been up multiple times during the night because of that. So just have to be smart and don't get him in a position where he's going to get hurt or get too
Yeah.
beat down to train later. So
Right.
yeah, but yeah, I've got those three. I've got Clark Stith. I've got Caden Osak,
Oh yeah.
Justin Richter. Mop trains when he's not super busy at the gym. He'll come in and
Sure.
get some work in with me. I'm trying to think who else we got.
So you've got a handful
We
of
got a
Amis
lot.
too.
Yeah, we got some guys that are on
Nice.
the amateur scene making their way up. Isaac Dancy's over with us.
Nice.
Yeah, we got a lot of good guys. We got Tyrese Wilborn just joined up. So I've got a bunch of guys that train part time with me, and then Isaac's there full time, Danny's there full time, Clark's there full time, Sean, Jordan, all those guys, and then Jordan Dowdy was in with me this morning too. So
Nice.
yeah, he's
That's
another.
awesome.
Yeah, I've worked with Jordan for many years as well. So he's just doing the grappling matches and tournaments and stuff, and that's what he
Sure.
enjoys doing. And then he and I are in Sean's corner, so we have a lot of time working side by side.
Very cool.
So it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
What do you think about fighters, like, well, most amateur fighters, like I was saying, like they have pretty much a full-time job on top of
Hmm.
fighting,
Hmm.
and then somebody like Sean who's a career fighter.
Right.
Do you see a big difference in their recovery, in like their ability to make time for the workouts? Or I mean, I don't know how he does it. I really don't.
Hmm.
He's an energizer bunny, it seems like. But
Right.
uh
I just got to turn the right music on, and he's ready to go.
yeah. Yeah.
And I've got my own. I'll kind of say something funny to him and get him pumped up. I'm like, hey, why don't you take your shirt off? And then he's ready to go. He's like, yeah, you're right. So,
That's
but yeah,
hilarious.
to answer your question, it all comes down to how disciplined those guys are and how bad they want to succeed on the MMA side. Because some of these guys are working they got really heavy manual labor jobs, and
Yeah, I've noticed.
a lot of these guys, Will, who I train, he's working hands on all day, and then he comes in and I can tell that he's tired, so I've got to be able to adjust the training around that so he still has energy to go train over at ES later. So I
Right.
mean, a lot of these guys are working as contractors. Jared Medley, is working with his hands all day, and he comes in and I can tell he's worn down, but I got to find some way to get him better. So it just boils down to how disciplined those guys are with their recovery and their eating and their sleep and how well they're bouncing back overnight for that next day. And
Yeah.
that's a whole nother, we could talk about that for 2 hours on how to get that,
Yeah.
how to get that right. That's a whole nother science.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah, do
hacks
you
that you can use
notice
for that.
that they get, like, burnt out sometimes, like the Amis?
Sometimes, yes,
Yeah.
and again, it just depends on are they training too much? Is work too hard right now? Is there
Right.
stress at home? Is there relationship stress? Are there family problems? Like what's going on? Usually there's something else in there that's throwing that scale out of balance.
That's
So
what I've noticed a lot of times when you see, like, fighters have maybe a performance where you're like, "That didn't even look like them,"
yeah,
and it's
something's out
usually
of
because
balance.
of, yeah, something personal,
Hmm.
divorce, stuff like that, like,
Yeah,
seriously affects their performance, like, more than people think.
100%.
Um Yeah. What are some ways that you've seen that have been helpful in, maybe a fighter is experiencing a very stressful situation in their life? How do you Are there little tips or things that you've noticed that can help them kind of work through that?
Um, just really simple. I mean, they can do meditation or they can do yoga. There's all kinds of protocols on YouTube you can look up, and you can just pull it up on your phone and sit it in front of you and do some breathing exercises, do some mobility. And I mean, it goes without saying, trying to get those situations settled as soon as possible, and just creating some space to where you can train and you can kind of put that away for a while and set that aside. And that, I totally understand that takes skill to be able to do that, but being able to kind of set that stress aside and almost like use training as a therapeutic sort of pathway is really valuable as well. So, but that takes
Definitely.
practice to be able to do that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
for me, lifting and like lifting heavy weight over my head, that's my therapy. But for other guys, it's like, oh, this is something I have to do. But if I'm
Yes.
going to get my stress under control, like um, every fight morning that Sean's had, that I've been in his corner, and even before, I'll get up early and go to the gym and lift and get an hour and a half lift in, and then I'm ready to go. So I kind of work
Right.
out whatever anxiety I'm feeling, and then I'm settled and ready to go. So that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. Cold plunge probably helps too.
Cold, yeah, you could finish with the cold plunge always.
There you go. There you go. Are you a
Yeah.
fan of doing it before or after training? I forgot to ask you that.
Personally, after, just because cooling the
Interesting.
body down, and it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of where the like caloric benefit is. The thermic effect of your body having to warm back up is going to burn a lot of calories too, not just not just the anti-inflammatory, but okay, now your body's got to burn X number of calories to get your core temperature back up to 98.6.
That's what
So,
I noticed when I used to
hmm
do it before, is that it would take me a lot longer to warm up,
hmm
especially if I did it really cold. So I would have to like
yep,
basically wait like an hour after I
hmm
did the cold before I worked out, and then I would still be kind of like
hmm
not there yet, and that's
right,
when you get injured. So
right. And we're getting ready to. So back in November, I bought my wife and I bought this new gym property over here in South City, and we're building
nice.
this new gym out as we speak.
Oh
We're gonna
wow.
have this. We're gonna have an entire recovery room with the the official cold plunge that you've probably seen advertised. With
Yeah.
it's like the big white bathtub with the tapered sides. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
have a big 4 to 6 person sauna, and then the cold
Wow.
plunge in that same room. So we'll be able to go back and forth. So you can get out of the sauna, get straight in the cold plunge for 3 minutes, and then go back in the sauna, and then do another round in there, and then go back to the cold plunge. I think that's where you're going to see the most benefits. So I'm excited to give that a
Interesting.
try.
So you're basically, after the workout, they're going in the sauna and then
Mm-hmm.
ice bath and then sauna. Ideally, is what
I
what you're
Yeah.
doing.
For Sean, we're just doing one round right now. For
Yeah.
myself, like Jordan Howard and I have tried, when we don't have any time constraints, which is like never.
Sure.
A couple of times we've tried back and forth. Like he'll get in the sauna, or I'll start on cold, and then we'll just switch. So
Okay.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard
So
that's really effective
it's
combining the
good.
two.
It's really good.
Um. Yeah. I've never tried it. I haven't tried sauna yet. Well, I just don't. I don't have one, so I
hmm
haven't tried it. But
We
I
got
need to.
um, we got one of the new Recover steam saunas.
Nice.
When they're more intense than the like infrared ones, because you have that humidity
Yeah.
element. And like Sean can attest to this, because he goes and sits in the dry sauna. He's like, man, that steam sauna is way more intense than being in the just dry sauna. So he's like, if I can
Yeah.
survive the steam sauna, I can survive the dry sauna for the weight cut all day. So
Yeah.
it's good. Yeah, it's
Definitely.
fun.
Yeah.
So
Give it another month, and you might not even need a sauna. You just go
right, you just go
outside.
outside and then go get in the cold plunge, and then go back in the just walk around outside.
Yeah. Good old St.
100%.
Louis.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we got the worst humidity, but I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I lived in Texas for a little bit, and it
Is
was
that pretty?
humid there too in Austin, but not as bad. I don't think it was as
Okay.
bad as St. Louis. I think it's worse here,
It's got
which
to
is
be like,
crazy.
we have like three rivers that come together: the Mississippi, the
Yeah.
Missouri, and the Merrimack. And I think that's
Right.
a big play, and as well as the weather pattern. That's crazy. So,
Right.
yep,
Yeah.
100%.
So with Danny and Jordan, they're going to be fighting
hmm
on May 17th. They're fighting in Nemesis, so they're
Yep.
they're pros, but they're like right in the edge, like where,
Right.
for Danny maybe a few more fights, and for Jordan, shoot, I mean if he wins this fight, he might
Could
be
be
in the
after this
UFC.
one. for sure.
So yeah, but do you train them all kind of as if they're in the UFC already, like similar to Sean, or do you
Um,
have like different approaches for different levels of fighters?
so and it's not so much levels. Like I use the same principles for an amateur from a training standpoint that I will use for Sean and for Jordan. Like we use the same principles, but the exercise selection and variation changes to what that individual needs. So when I take a new fighter on, I'll go and I'll like scout I'll go and scout some of his old fights. I'll figure out, does he need more conditioning? Does he need do his arms burn out after 2 rounds? So then I'll do my own testing in the gym, and then I'll devise the training around all of that. So it's highly
Okay.
individualized. Um, I would say from a UFC caliber, pros are gonna, they have to go 5 rounds, so the intervals are going to be longer. The intensity is going to be a little bit higher. The complexity is going to be a little bit more complex, and
Right.
that's what differentiates them between some of the like lower tier guys that can get better by me just giving them some more basic stuff to build them up, especially if they haven't really been
Sure.
in the gym much. Whereas you have Sean,
Yeah.
who, when he came to me, he wasn't weightlifting at all. He was just like a blank slate, and I could give him just about anything, and he was getting better, and he was adapting very quickly. Now he's got a 5 to 6 year training history, so it's got to have more complexity, more targeted intensity, and more emphasis on recovery now that he's a little bit older as well. So but yeah, we're
Interesting.
still making gains. I mean, he was putting down some heat in the conditioning work yesterday, which is impressive for where we are in camp. Where usually he's a little more
Yeah.
depleted. He was just like, he was going crazy. I was like, man, I keep telling him every day, your fitness looks great. We just gotta get through this cut and get you in there. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Exactly. So you obviously are a big part of their, their weight cut and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a nutritionist there too that you're working with or that you've partnered with?
So I've got another trainer that runs her practice out of my building, and when we get into the new building, which will be about twice the size, we're bringing her as well.
Nice.
She was a gourmet chef as well, not currently, but she's starting to get into this meal prep and nutrition and macro sort of coaching. So Danny's actually working with her right now, Summer, and
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen
yeah,
her.
her
I've
her
seen her
stuff
meals. They look
is
really good.
yeah, she does figure competitions, and her husband AJ, he's in the Army National Guard. He's a heck of a strength coach as well, and he comes in and will train some his like kids and their like teammates for wrestling. Just yeah, I would definitely recommend her when it comes to
That's
all of the
awesome.
macro stuff. So she's got a good handle on it, and yeah, we're going to be working with her from here on out. So we'll see how
That's
many
awesome.
fighters she can handle at once. So how much
Yeah,
food
she's
can you
gonna be
make at
busy.
once, Summer? So
She's gonna have to start hiring.
right, yeah, she might need some help. So
That's
we're gonna load
awesome.
her up with business here. So it'll be good.
It's a good
Get
problem
the
to
word
have.
out. It's a good problem to have. Yep.
That's awesome. Well, that's really cool. I mean, like I said earlier, like all that's going on with St. Louis. I feel like this though, which I had heard about, your gym, and I'd heard about you a little bit, but I didn't really know much about it. You see all gyms and
Right.
stuff, and
Yeah,
you're
you
like,
see all
okay,
kinds of
cool,
stuff pop
whatever.
up.
Yeah, like all
Yeah.
right, but until you really learn about it, like you don't
Hmm.
know. And but now, like listening to what you've said and learning like all your experience and your
Hmm.
knowledge and it gets me really excited because I feel like that's like one little piece that we
Hmm.
need to make St. Louis a hub for combat sports because
Right.
in order to really do that we need
Hmm.
we need guys like Sean, we need UFC
Right.
guys that are performing on a very high level,
Right.
and in order to have that we need we need the facilities, we need the
Right.
resources, we need like we've
Yep.
got Wolves End, we've got ES, we've got St. Charles, we've got all these different gyms, and
Hmm.
then we've got you and we've got strength and conditioning, and so I feel like it's all
It's
coming
coming
together
together.
now. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
when we launch our new building, it's got big like arched ceilings. It's got that kind of airplane hangar feel, and my goal is to have it
That's
be
sick.
a one-stop shop for strength and conditioning for these guys. We'll get a couple of heavy bags up in there as well. We're going to have the sauna and cold plunge room. We're going to have all these different options. So it'll be, we'll have Summer doing the meal prep, and she'll be operating out of there as well. So, we're gonna put it all together.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. Where's the location right now that you're training out of?
So we're on the Hill neighborhood right off the Kings Highway,
I used to live right over there.
Yeah, we're right by Forest Park and Gateway Tech High. We're right at the end of the street there. So,
nice.
And we're moving to Kings Highway and Olathe, right where those two streets meet. So right down the street.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
I love that area. Awesome.
It's super cool. So you should come over.
I will.
You should come and check it out.
I'll be there. I live far from there now, but I used to live literally like 5 minutes from there.
Okay.
So awesome. I should have checked it out when I was in the neighborhood, but I will definitely be checking it out.
Next time you're in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
Awesome.
I've seen pictures. It looks beautiful. And I can't imagine what the new place is going to look like.
Oh, it's so you basically take what you see on our current place and you multiply it +2 and then add the recovery rooms and stuff like on the far end and stuff. They'll have their own space. So, beautiful. And then we'll have plenty of UFC posters and stuff hung up tastefully. She's like, I want our branding everywhere. She's like, so we'll have these posters in their own spot, She's real big on branding. She's like, I want everywhere you point the camera, you'll have the gym's logo somewhere on the wall. But it's gonna be really neat. Yeah, we're gonna get. I've got boxes of those hexagonal lights that you see, people put on the ceilings.
Yeah, those are sweet.
So I got 3 boxes of those sitting over here right by the door. We're just waiting to get all the painting done, and then we'll be able to put all those finishing touches on, and it'll look really cool.
That's awesome. So does your wife help a lot with the business and all that?
So she does more of the administrative stuff. She is a critical care pharmacist and runs her own little side business and does laser engraving, art, and things like that. So, when you see motivational quotes up on the wall, that's stuff that she's cut out. She has this huge laser where you can put various materials in, acrylic, wood, and put the designs in, and the laser will cut it out, and then she paints it, and we'll send it, or in our case, put it up on the wall. So she's got all kinds of neat things that she makes with that, and that's under the same roof that we're in, and her studio will be right next door to our new gym space. So
that's badass.
So we're in the process of getting that moved over right now. It's going to be a little bit, but our target is to have everything moved by August 1st or August 3rd or somewhere in there.
Very cool.
So be good. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for everything and really excited for May 11th and May 17th too. I mean, we're so spoiled. We get UFC, right? And then the next weekend we have.
We're gonna turn NFA. Right around. Yeah, I've got to. We'll get Sean in there. We'll get his weight on. He's gonna have. I keep telling him, you're gonna have the best weight cut of your whole career. So we're gonna put it together. Then I get to do Jordan and Daddy on Wednesday night and Thursday. So
yeah, you're gonna be busy.
Yeah, oh man, I'm telling you, I just got to get through the next 2 weeks and do everything perfect, and I'll be in good shape. So
well, that's awesome.
It'll be good. Yeah, that's my goal.
It's like the perfect timing because Sean, if this would have been 1 or 2 fights ahead, then he might have been too big to be on a card like this,
I agree.
I mean, even Buckley, I was kind of surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised because of the matchup because it's not a huge name. But I mean, a monster.
Yeah,
absolute monster. He's fighting.
I didn't really know much about him, and then I started watching some film on him. I was man. I was like, this guy. Yeah. I was like, man, this guy's a giant. He's literally a giant. So hopefully all the St. Louis guys show up and get their hand raised, and hopefully Joaquin can find a way to get inside on him. But it's gonna be
he's good
wild.
On the inside, so he might really have some success. I actually do like his chances there. I do. Yeah. It's a weird fight. For sure. It's not what I expected, but I mean, you take what you can get, I guess.
He's super aggressive and strong and likes to press in, and that's going to work to his advantage in this one, I believe.
Definitely.
So
it'll
be good.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then Sean too. If this would have happened, too soon, then, you know, he wouldn't have quite as much of like a fan base built
Mm-hmm.
either. So it's like,
Yeah.
it feels like just the perfect timing of everything,
Just
like
right.
coming together. Like
Perfect.
it's wonderful. And
It
then,
is.
you know,
It is.
Danny and Jordan fighting the week after, and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're on their way to the UFC, and we've got,
Yep.
we've got so many fight. I tell people all the time, I'm like, you got to check out our amateur scene and
Mm-hmm.
our low level pro scene, and like even like the higher level pros that quite aren't at the
Yeah.
UFC yet. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, we've got all levels of
Oh yeah.
guys that are on their way, and
Yep.
it can happen
And you
really
know
fast.
who's under the radar is on the amateur scene is Clark.
Yes,
That guy's a killer. Like he was
Clark
in
and
the
Tavon too.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean both of them. I'm trying to get Tavon in so we can get him ready for
Yeah,
whatever's up next. But yeah, I mean Clark is man, like
Clark's a
he's got that.
beast.
I was watching him pace back and forth in his last fight and stare at the other guy across from him, and I was like, oh boy, like the other up on the big screen there at the Armory, and I was standing like
Yeah,
right there looking at it, and I saw him just like I've got a like video on my phone of him staring, walking back and forth, and not breaking eye contact. I was like, this
yeah.
guy's gonna get smoked, and the guy kicked him in the leg, and I go, that's the last time he's gonna do that. Clark took him down, and he never got up, and it was over. So
Oh my God, his his
yeah,
top pressure, his
very
ability to
strong,
control on the
very
ground,
strong.
it's like you're watching a UFC fighter. It really is.
Yep.
Like, I was so impressed. I
Oh yeah.
remember I was at Ballpark Village whenever I can't remember who was. Oh, Jesse was headlining. Duh. And
Hmm.
that was the last one they did at Ballpark,
Yeah.
and
He
his
fought.
fight, I was
Yeah, he
like
fought Jacob
dialed
Hiley.
in.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we put a lot of work in for that fight because we knew
I could tell.
Jacob's a great fighter, and yeah, he was ready, and that was a well earned win for him. So
Is he undefeated, Clark?
yeah, I think he's 5-0. He'll
Thought
we
so.
were hoping to get him on this NFA card, but I think his opponent got injured and pulled out. So,
Yeah,
and we're hoping to get
happens.
Tyrese, but there was some confusion. I think his opponent is now fighting over at Knuckled Up.
Oh
So
gosh.
yeah. So, we had a
That's
couple. I
funny.
was originally going to have like 4 guys on there, but we had some opponents
Yeah.
pull out. So it is what it is. But it's going to be a great
It's
night.
happening a lot lately, I've
It's going to be a great
noticed.
night
Like
regardless. So
it seems like every promoter on Facebook, just every day they're just losing their mind.
I know. I need a late minute replacement for this
Yeah.
guy. So
It's so
it's
funny.
crazy,
Yeah. It
crazy.
happens a lot, especially in the amateur scene. Like,
Hmm.
and a lot of these guys, like Clark, I mean, I can't imagine anybody really wanting to fight him as an
No,
AMI.
no, not as a last minute replacement. Definitely not.
No.
Not on 2 weeks
No.
notice or 3 weeks notice. So I don't think
Yeah, you
so.
need a full camp for somebody like that, for sure.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, and even still, you know, he's so dominant and
Yeah,
yeah, just dangerous, very dangerous. And
100%.
I'm excited. There's a lot of AMIs and pros that I'm really excited about here. And just seeing their journey and their career has been really cool too. So,
Hmm.
it's awesome.
Yep,
It's
there'll be a
awesome.
lot more good stuff to come. That's for sure.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, man, it's been awesome talking to you.
It's been
We'll have
great.
to do this again because we have so
Yeah.
much to talk about.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot more training philosophy to talk about. Any other
Yeah.
questions you might have, I'd love to have you over to the gym, and I
Oh,
can show you some
definitely.
stuff that'll give you an edge in what you're doing and with what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
lots of stuff we can do. So,
That would be great. I would love it. I love before I ever got into like doing MMA media, like when I started my original podcast, I was talking more about fitness and
hmm.
recovery and stuff than I was about MMA. MMA was like that was like I was like I want to talk about MMA cuz like
Hmm.
that's one of my passions, but it wasn't I
Sure.
didn't even really mean for that to be like the focus of it. It just turned
Just how it
into it.
happened.
But
Yep.
yeah, but originally, yeah, I was because I have my my what's it called, my NASM certification.
Hmm.
So I really got into fitness like within the last few years and made a lot of progress with like I
Hmm.
put on probably like at least 10 pounds of muscle. And like for me, I'm small, so that's a lot. But
that is a lot for you.
yeah,
Hang on 1 second. I
yeah.
gotta let the
Oh no, you're
dogs out
fine.
real quick.
Do your thing. But
1
yeah,
second.
it's been
Go on.
really cool. To kind of see how everything's evolved, and then shifting from fitness to shifting more to MMA. But now I'm like starting to like kind of get back into fitness and stuff too, because it's
There's
so
lots there.
important.
There's lots
It's
there
so
for sure.
important. Yeah, not only for sports, but just like for your overall longevity and health. Like so important, like because like with sarcopenia, like you lose muscle as you get
Right.
older, and if
Yep.
you aren't doing anything, like you are getting weaker, and you're gonna, that's why people when they get older they break bones and they fall, and they have to
Yep.
get hip replacements and all kinds of things. So
Yep. You got to stay on top of
super
it.
important. Definitely. Well, I
100%.
appreciate having you on. I feel like this was like one of the most educational
Oh,
episodes I've had in a
thank you.
while. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah,
I
I'm
feel like I
happy
should be
to.
paying you for this. Like,
No, happy to answer questions, and if there's training stuff that doesn't make sense, you're more than welcome to send me a message, and I'll write you back about it.
I appreciate it.
100%.
Well, before we go, if there's anything that you want to plug, anything that you want to make sure to let people know about before we go, the floor is yours.
Just shout out to all the fighters that I work with: Sean Woodson, Jordan Howard, Dan Moriarty, Jordan Dowdy, Mop, all these guys. Shout out to my wife for always being so supportive, and just my entire team. Just thanks to everyone, to Summer and AJ who train with me at the gym. We're just going to keep building.
Awesome.
Just going to keep
Very
building.
cool.
Well,
Very
thanks for
exciting.
having me. Really
Of
appreciate it, and I'm
course.
sure I'm going to be seeing you in the next couple of days. So
Definitely.
it'll be great.
Awesome. Well, I
All right,
appreciate
Bree.
it. I'll let you get back to your day, but
Okay,
you have a
thank you.
good one, and
You
I'll
too.
talk
Have
to
a
you again
great
soon.
weekend. All right. See you
You
soon.
too.
Okay.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.